Hey, this is Kevin Bass from thedietwars.com. Today, I'm going to talk to you guys about a widespread myth in the world of dieting and nutrition and of obesity activism and of the sales of popular diet books and the promotion of popular websites and consulting services. The myth that the dietary guidelines caused us to eat more grains and sugar and thereby caused the obesity epidemic. The obesity epidemic. I've looked at this suggestion in depth, and I found it to be lacking. So, without any further ado, I'm going to now take apart this myth looking at the evidence. Did the dietary guidelines cause Americans to eat more refined grains and sugar? Let's look at the facts. But before we do, I want to introduce myself. I'm a medical student and PhD student. I'm doing both degrees to become a scientist and a physician, an MD PhD. And I became very passionate about helping to resolve the obesity epidemic before I entered medical school. In fact, the summer before I entered medical school, I read many books, one of which was Michael Pollan, The Omnivore Dilemma. Another was Robert Lustig's book. I think it's called A Bitter Truth or Fat Chance, actually. It's called Fat Chance. And during that summer before med school, I really boned up on a lot of these kinds of ideas, and I believed them for a long time. They're very important as a part of my development, the ideas I'm going to be taking apart in this video. But in any case, as I've learned more during the course of my PhD, I've wanted to communicate what I've learned, which is that a lot of these ideas are wrong, and we need to correct them. And so my channel actually is in large part dedicated to correcting some of this stuff. Of course, there are other purposes of my channel as well. I'm trying to promote high quality health information across a number of different topics, and of course, promote certain views and ideas that will ultimately lead to certain business interests of my own. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to be taking apart this myth in particular. The myth that the dietary guidelines caused us to eat more grains and sugar, and they caused the obesity epidemic. And it's important that we correct this myth, by the way, so that we know what the real causes of the obesity epidemic are. Are they the dietary guidelines? If we change the dietary guidelines, will we stop the obesity epidemic? Or are there other things we have to do? And knowing the answer to this will allow us to stop the obesity epidemic. And having the wrong idea will hurt us and not allow us to stop the obesity epidemic. So there's other knock-on effects, some negative other effects from this kind of misinformation, but that's the basic idea. Seriously though, without further ado, let's dig in. Americans currently eat about a quarter of the whole grains intake recommended by the current dietary guidelines for Americans. And we eat about double the recommended refined grains. In fact, Americans are supposed to eat 50% of total intake of grains as whole grains. We don't. We eat about 12 to 15% of total intake as whole grains. The rest is refined grains, that is to say, about 75 to 80%. Sorry, my mistake. About 85 to 90%, in fact, is refined grains. In other words, we eat about 8-fold fewer whole grains than is recommended by the dietary guidelines. And whenever you hear the story about how carbs recommended by the dietary guidelines caused obesity, often this fact is, or always, this fact is omitted from that discussion. We actually don't at all get anywhere close to the guidelines recommendations for whole grains. And we can see that clearly in this figure right here that I've had you guys looking at. The green here is the average whole grains intake, the blue is the recommended range, and the orange is the refined grains intake. And as you can see, the refined grains intake is far above what the dietary guidelines recommend, and the whole grains intake is far below, just as I've said. So the question therefore is, if Americans eat too many refined grains, can it be the guidelines' fault? Can it be the guidelines' fault if the guidelines recommend fewer refined grains and Americans eat more refined grains? Can it be the guidelines' fault? How would it be? Indeed, a 2010 study showed that only 1%, yes, that's right, 1% of Americans eat the quantity of grains recommended by the dietary guidelines. 1 out of 100 people eat the whole grains recommended by the dietary guidelines. Meanwhile, as we can see above, the average American far exceeds the recommended intake of refined grains. Can it be the guidelines' fault if Americans eat 1%, if 1% of Americans meet the recommendations of the guidelines? Can it be the guidelines' fault? I don't see how that's possible. But here is a screenshot just to drive home the point of the 2015 to 2020 dietary guidelines for Americans, showing that it recommends at least half of all grains consumed be unrefined. And I'll read from the screenshot. At least half of this amount should be whole grains. As I say, at least half of the recommended amount of grains should be whole grains. Okay? Now, some claim that only current guidelines included the recommendation to consume unrefined grains, and the early guidelines didn't. This is false. The dietary guidelines for Americans from 1981 repeatedly emphasized eating unrefined carbohydrates. And as we can see in this screenshot of the pamphlet for the early dietary guidelines in 1980, it says number 4, and there are 7 main points, 7 main principles, 7 tenets of modern health. The 4th one is eat foods with adequate starch and fiber. And the last line of this particular point says increasing your consumption of certain complex carbohydrates can also help increase dietary fiber. The average American diet is relatively low in fiber. Second to last line says complex carbohydrate foods are better than simple carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates such as beans, peas, nuts, seeds, fruits, and vegetables, and whole grains, breads, cereals, and products contain many essential nutrients in addition to calories. And if we scroll down, furthermore, it says in the middle here, to make sure you get enough fiber in your diet, you should eat fruits and vegetables, whole grain breads, and cereals. There's no reason to add fiber to foods that do not already contain it. And it says to eat more complex carbohydrates daily, substitute starches for fats and sugars. Select foods which are good sources of fiber and starch, such as whole grain breads and cereals, fruits and vegetables, beans, peas, and nuts. Okay, so you have right there. Indeed, the entire fourth guideline was dedicated to recommending unrefined carbohydrate foods. Since there are only 7 guidelines in this pamphlet, that means 14% of the 1980 dietary guidelines for Americans were dedicated to telling consumers to eat unrefined carbohydrates. And again, it says, select foods which are good sources of fiber and starch, such as whole grain, breads and cereals, fruits and vegetables, beans, peas, and nuts. Let me ask, does it say refined grains and sugar? Does it say to eat donuts and pizza? Does it say to eat ice cream and cupcakes? No. It says to eat foods that Americans still don't eat very much of. 42 years later. Many people do not eat any of these foods. On the topic of sugar, do the dietary guidelines tell people to eat a bunch of sugar to replace fat, as it's often claimed? No. The guidelines tell people to limit sugar. In fact, number 5 of the 7 guidelines is dedicated to this. Here is its summary statement. Avoid excessive sugars. Use less of all sugars, including white sugar, brown sugar, raw sugar, honey, and syrups. Eat less of foods containing these sugars, such as candy, soft drinks, ice cream, cakes, and cookies. Select fresh fruits or fruits canned without sugar or light syrup rather than heavy syrup. Read labels for clues on sugar content. If the names sucrose, glucose, maltose, dextrose, lactose, fructose, or syrups appear first, then there is a large amount of sugar. Remember, how often you eat sugar is as important as how much sugar you eat. There you have it. Don't eat so much sugar. Stop eating so much sugar, to paraphrase. Now, according to the USDA food availability data, Americans today eat more refined grains and sugar than they did in 1970. Americans have not followed the dietary guidelines. Americans have largely ignored them. Sorry for those of you who wanted to see where I was talking about the sugars. You can see that in this particular clip here. If you want to read that to make sure that I'm telling the truth, you can. Just pause the video and read. As well, there will also be a link to all of this information. Each and every point will be linked in the description of the video. Okay, I'm moving on now to the part about refined grains and sugar. Here is refined grains. As you can tell, the refined grains such as wheat flour, corn products, rice, and other have all gone up. The total number of grains have gone up, and the whole grains have not. Likewise, if you go to sugar, you see very clearly that the intake of sugar per capita per person has gone from 160% of the recommendation, as to say 60% higher than the recommendation, to 180% of the recommendation, 80% higher than the recommendation. So, as we can see, Americans don't eat what the guidelines say as far as whole grains are concerned. They don't eat what the guidelines say should be eaten as far as the sugar and the refined grains are concerned. They overeat these massively. And yet, people claim on the internet that we eat too many sugar and refined grain products because of the dietary guidelines. Where is that coming from, and why are people saying it if it's so clearly false? If it's so clear that the guidelines said the opposite, yet ever since the guidelines were issued, we keep eating more refined grains, more sugar, why do some people make the claim otherwise? Why do some people say it's the guidelines that's causing this when the guidelines never said to do this? Why do the people say that it's following the guidelines that caused the obesity epidemic when actually the guidelines say the opposite of what people have been doing? The trends have actually been going in the opposite direction of the guidelines, yet it's blamed on the guidelines? It's a weird thing. Let me put this in context. There is a large, thriving, low-carbohydrate diet industry worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I think actually billions of dollars. It's worth billions of dollars, last I checked. There are many people who are involved in this, many entrepreneurs who are selling books, selling videos, selling information, selling subscription services, selling consultation services. There are millions of people around the world who are buying products, who are losing weight according to this strategy. One way to sell this strategy is to make outrageous claims. Is to sell what essentially amounts to a conspiracy theory. In this case, the government intentionally caused people to eat more sugar and refined grains. They don't care about your health. Here, you who is failing to lose weight and thinks you're doing the right thing, here, I'm here to save you when the government and the authorities wouldn't help you. Sign up for my subscription-based consultation service. It's a marketing strategy based on outrage. It's a lucrative marketing strategy that's ultimately highly socially corrosive. And that's why these myths spread around despite the facts. If you liked the video, check me out on Twitter, TikTok, Instagram at KevinNBass, KevinNBass, also on Patreon. The more you donate to my Patreon, the more I can thrive and justify my existence on the internet as I'm doing these things to my baby mama, who I'm trying to help raise the kids with. And as people know, some people know, like her and I, well, we divorced in 2020, and today we co-parent. So maintaining good relations with the baby mama is always a good thing. And so doing the right thing and looking after my kids is a good thing. And of course, it's going to be good for them too, because the happier she is with me, the happier she's going to be with them, the happier she's going to be with the situation. So the more I can support her, the better. I don't mean to give you a sob story. I'm just like putting it in context, like why the more people, donate to Patreon or whatever, provide money if you guys are getting a lot out of these videos, the better off my life will be and the better I can justify doing these kinds of videos. So if you guys like these and you want to see more, you want to see me make like a video a day for the next 10 years, which is what I really would love to do, then donate. And that's a short-term thing, so kind of like once that happens, you'll set me up, and then I can start making the big bucks. I got some other ideas. I'm building a foundation here. And yeah, that would be fantastic if you could do that. And then after a long time, I'll get a Bugatti, and you guys will see my Bugatti, my like $10 million car. So this is like a stepping stone. First to like, getting out from my Dodge Caravan, my 1997 Dodge Caravan, which has tape that holds up its windows because I had to open up the window. I had to get inside the car, but I locked the keys in the car. So I grabbed the window and I pulled it down, and I broke the mechanism, keeping it like have it roll up and down. So I broke the mechanism so it like drops within the door. So then I had to tape the window up, or else when it rains into my car. And then like, it's the most hood car you've ever seen in your life. It's like the most hood car. It doesn't reverse. I could tell you some stories. I'll tell a story actually right now. I had been up all night working for my PhD, and I had to pick up my kids because my baby mama's, the mother of my children, her car broke down. So I had to pick up the kids and take them to school. So I did that, and like, as I was turning out of the parking lot for my son, my 1-year-old, my car doesn't go in reverse, okay? So I was trying to turn around and get out of the parking lot, but I made a strategic error. And there was a car that was parked behind me that I ended up I couldn't clear it. I couldn't get past that car. But here's the problem. The slope of the parking lot was down towards that car. So there's no way I could roll backwards, right? I can't roll backwards through neutral in order to get past that car. So I put my car in park, and I said to my 7-year-old, this is potentially one of the dumbest decisions of my life. I said to the 7-year-old, okay, what you need to do is put it in reverse, because if it's in or neutral, reverse or neutral is fine, because then I can push it backwards, it'll roll backwards. I'll tell you to push it in reverse or neutral, and when I do, put it in reverse or neutral. And then I'll push it backwards, so then I can, once I get far enough backwards, she can put it back in park. And then once she puts it back in park, then I can grab the steering wheel and then turn it again, and then I can clear that other car, right? Okay, so I got in position, ready to push, and I said, okay, put it in reverse. What does she do? She puts it in drive, okay? She puts it in drive. All right, so now instead of going backwards, it's going towards the car that I wanted to clear. And she's in the driver's seat, and I'm in between the van and the car that I'm trying to clear. Okay? So I wasn't thinking clearly. This is the dumbest thing. I don't even know if I should share this. I was thinking not clearly. So what I did is I was so scared that the other car was going to get hit. I jumped in between the van and the other car. I didn't want to. So she started sandwiching me and pinning me against the other car. Fortunately, she moved it into park. She freaked out and she moved into park, and she stopped the car. Okay, and I didn't get my leg crushed between the fender of each car, because it was there, or maybe my leg was stopping it from going further. I think at some point, my leg probably would have stopped it, but maybe it did to some degree. I didn't get injured. I didn't get injured at all. And everything was totally fine. And I knocked off the license plate of the other car. The other person came out. We were good. It was okay. It was like a $5 repair. So I saved that other car. I don't know what would have happened if I hadn't used myself as a human shield between the two cars. So, yeah. So that's, but I gotta get that situation taken care of for that car. I gotta make it so that I can go in reverse. I gotta get the window fixed, and there's other issues, like power steering is dead. So I have to this is why I get swole. I'm 205 pounds. I don't have to lift weights. All I have to do is use my power. I don't have power steering, so I just have to So once all that's taken care of, and then I build a good foundation, I'm going to get my Bugatti. So, from that car to a Bugatti, that's the goal. So you're going to climb that far up. So if you can help donate to Patreon, that would be freaking badass, because then I can escape my miserable poverty. Now I'm doing great, actually. I'm doing wonderful. You guys are great. Many of you have donated, and my monetization is it's fire right now. It's super hot. So I'm almost at $1,000 a month now, in addition to my stipend, my PhD stipend. My PhD stipend is nothing. I don't want to show you how much that is. It's nothing. But adding another $1,000 a month makes a big difference. So much appreciation for that. But if you have been watching this stuff and you like it, then you can add to that. Sweet. And it's going to keep getting bigger, but because of you guys. So that said, you can also check me out on, what else somebody can check me out? You can the podcast of the Kevin Bass Show on various different podcast directories, as well as Apple Podcasts. Make sure to review and rate. So I need more reviews on Apple Podcasts. So on Apple Podcasts, there's just one review from the United States. It's like a lengthy review. I need you guys to like write a lengthy, nuanced review. We need to displace that one. It's like a 3-star review. He says Kevin's too like one-sided and partial. Maybe, and I take that to heart. I'm not trying to necessarily be better about that. Like, look, the point of some of my debunkings is not to necessarily show the comprehensive view of things. If you want the comprehensive view of things, you can actually listen to like a lot of podcasts I've been doing. Like the podcasts you go way in detail. The debunkings are just like kind of a one-sided view, like pointing out the other side of a certain health intervention or supplementation strategy. The point of my debunking is not to give a comprehensive overview of everything. It's to just give the other side of the story. You already heard the one side. I'm going to give the other side, right? I'm going to give the way that you can understand that other side better, right? I'm going to contextualize it. And so once you hear both sides, then you're good. I mean, if you want the full comprehensive view, my full comprehensive views, you can always check out the podcast. The podcast will always give those views. So don't think that that's like the only thing I'm doing. It's not. I'm not like I tell everything. It's just the purpose of those debunkings is just to give one side. So don't think I'm doing the same thing the other guys are doing. I'm not. It's just like the purpose of that video is just to give the other side. It's not to give a whole review. It's like the point. That's like what I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to give a comprehensive view. Hope it makes sense. But you can get a comprehensive review, and I do have these on podcasts. And I'm gonna make separate videos as well. They just don't interest me as much to do comprehensive reviews, but maybe they'll get more clicks. So if they get more clicks and they get more likes and people love them, yeah, I'll do more of them. And so that's like a whole genre of videos that I haven't even dug into yet to a great degree. And so I'm gonna do that at some point. But like, yeah, I just have different style of videos. So I just want to like clarify for your sakes, like, you know, I'm doing what the algorithm likes and I'm learning about the algorithm on YouTube. I'm just learning about the algorithm. I'm trying to figure out what's going to get me and my channel like set up. What's going to get me the most viewers? What's going to get me the most readers? What's going to give me the most monetization? What's going to get me up to like $1,000 a month, $5,000 a month on YouTube? How am I going to get there given who I am, right? Maybe it's not possible given who I am, right? Maybe I just don't have whatever people want to click on. I don't know. I'm going to try and keep experimenting. I'm loving the process, like amazingly. I'm loving it because it's teaching me about like how to talk to a camera, how to talk to people, how to present, how to tell a story, how to intonate, how to like modulate my voice, like what kind of mental state I need to be in before I talk. There's so many different things that I'm learning that is amazing, and it's going to apply to like way more than YouTube. And so I'm addicted to it. So, but I'm still learning, you know, I'm learning about people are going to like. So tell me what you guys, so that leads to the last point. Make sure you write that review. As I said, to displace that one guy's review, you need to write your own nuanced and comprehensive review, right? That'll help displace that one dude's review. And finally, lost track. There was something really important I want to say. Oh yeah, make sure to give me feedback. Give me negative and positive feedback. Both are important. I love them both. And I do listen, and I am listening. So that one review that remains at the top like bugs me. And it's like, I have to think about if it's true or what I need to do to change it, or if I want to keep going this direction, like what needs to happen. But the more feedback I get, the better. So please leave that feedback. Okay? I hope you guys liked this video. I hope my ramble at the end, you know, you didn't have to watch the rest. I told you I was concluding. So I hope you didn't like watch this ramble hoping for some science to pop up at the end, because it was never going to happen. I was just talking about my life and getting pinned by my 7-year-old. Like, why did I do that? I got pinned by a 7-year-old. Why did I do that? Oh my God. Why did I let my 7-year-old? I was like, just go to. She's smart though. She's like at the top of her class. Like she's at the top of like 26 students. She's like #1. No, of course she can get it. Why can't she just move it to reverse? Why is she gonna put it into drive? I didn't think he was gonna put it into drive and pin me against the car. Come on. Yeah, I just don't let 7-year-olds drive cars. Come on. That was a mistake. But it's a good story, okay? It's a funny story. So At least to me. Maybe you guys are looking and watching in horror. Okay, I hope you like this stuff. Make sure to click subscribe if you're still here. The 5% of you are still left. The 1% of you are still left. Click that subscribe button if you haven't already. I think I'm a pretty cool dude. Come on. Click the subscribe button and click the like button, because the like button will help the video. Subscribe button will help the video. All this stuff will help the video. So click that stuff. And yeah, that'll be awesome. And subscribe to the podcast. Follow the podcast. The more the numbers go up on the podcast, the more I chart. I was like neck and neck with New England Journal of Medicine author interviews channel. I was totally crushing it. So follow me on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and that's gonna help my charting. I want to get to like a top 10 podcast at some point. And I have to have like more subscribers. I have to have a high frequency of subscribers. A lot of people at any given time. So you can be one of those people, and that would be super helpful. Okay, enough rambling. I hope this helped you. Please check me out for the next one. It'll be a banger as well. If you thought this was a banger, if you didn't, check me out for the one after that one. So, see you. Peace.